Throughout your professional driving career, you've probably heard a lot of talk about defensive driving. Defensive driving is the key to your survival and our success as a company. The statistics are out there. According to federal government research, there are nearly 150,000 heavy truck crashes every year, of which about 5,000 result in fatalities and another 60,000 result in injuries that require treatment away from the scene of the collision. More than 5,000 people lose their lives each year in crashes involving heavy trucks. Now, the injuries and loss of life are the real tragedies, but there's an economic side of these crashes too. The same government studies estimate that in 2005, an average truck crash cost the motor carrier about $91,000. If the collision involved an injury, the average cost rose to almost $200,000. If someone was killed, the claims skyrocketed to $3.6 million. And what do you suppose the number one contributing factor is to all this? Well, when all is said and done, the major contributing factors listed in government studies seem to point to speed and driving too fast for conditions. And the real tragedy in all this? As drivers, we have total control of the speed of our trucks. It's our foot on the pedal. You've heard the expression that speed kills. It's true. Not only are you more likely to be involved in a collision if you're speeding, but it's more likely that the crash will be serious. Think about it. The faster you're traveling, the less time you have to react to a hazard. Let's say you see a disabled car in your lane when you're 500 feet away from it. If you're driving 55 miles per hour, your truck is moving at about 80 feet per second. At this rate, you'll have a little over 6 seconds to react, to stop or change lanes. But if you're driving at 75 miles per hour, you're moving at over 110 feet per second and will only have 4.5 seconds to react. Now, a second and a half or 2 seconds may not seem like much when you're sitting there playing with a computer. But in a life-and-death situation, it may well be the difference between a near miss and a terrible crash. Now, think about the same situation of a disabled car in your lane, only imagine it at night. If you're using your headlights' low beams, you can probably only see about 250 feet in front of your truck. At 70 or 75 miles per hour, you'd be almost on top of that car before you could get to the brakes. Ask yourself, how much do I normally slow down at night? How much do I slow down in the fog or when visibility isn't the best? If you're like most drivers, your answer will be not much. But think about it the next time you find yourself in these situations. Now, we know we've got runs to make, and in our just-in-time world, our schedules are sometimes set up for us to run hard. But while a few miles an hour can make a life-and-death difference in an emergency, just what does it save us over the course of a trip? In the course of steady interstate driving, driving 10 miles an hour faster will save us less than an hour in an average day. Instead, there are often delivery routes where traffic lights and dock times make a lot more difference to how the day goes than your speed on the big road. In those cases, we need to remember that speeding simply won't make up for the time we lost waiting to get loaded or unloaded. We may want to speed to try to get back on schedule, but it probably won't help us much and could set us back even further if we get a ticket or get involved in a collision. And let's talk about speeding tickets. Not all drivers realize that if they're caught going 15 miles an hour over the limit, it's a serious violation, and that 2 tickets like that will get their CDLs suspended. 3 tickets like that in 3 years, and they'll be sitting for 3 months. And speaking of tickets, have you noticed that more and more law enforcement officials are checking drivers' logs and doing equipment inspections as part of routine traffic stops? If you're going to speed when you're in town, you'll be putting a whole lot of people at risk. Not only are cars more likely to be around your truck, but also they're more likely to make sudden or unexpected maneuvers, like pulling out in front of you or making last-minute turns into parking lots. And there are pedestrians, kids on bicycles, and things like that. Traffic lights can change quickly, and we have a lot of truck to either get stopped or try to get through the intersection. These driving conditions are hard enough to manage safely when you're driving the speed limit, or even a little slower. But when you're speeding, well, you're just not going to be able to see everything you need to. And what you do see, you may not be able to react to in time. So in cities and towns, we expect that you'll be slowing down and providing an extra margin of safety for those around you. At certain times of the year, it seems like the entire highway system is undergoing repair or reconstruction. Construction zones cause traffic backups, delays, and frustration. But there are no places for speeding. Every year, thousands of crashes occur in construction zones, and hundreds of workers are killed. With restricted lanes, there are fewer options for avoiding a collision if something unexpected happens. Traffic often slows abruptly as slow-moving trucks and equipment enter or exit the roadway. Lane closures cause cars and trucks alike to slow down, stop, or change lanes with little or no warning. If you're driving too fast, you just won't be able to react in time and slow or stop your truck in order to avoid a collision. So if construction delays your route, just stay calm and call dispatch at your next stop. Explain the situation, and they'll update your schedule with the customer. It's a whole lot easier to do that than it is to explain that you've been in a crash and the load won't make it at all. One of the most common factors listed on police collision reports is speed too fast for conditions. While this may be something of a catch-all phrase, it says a lot about how some drivers don't pay very close attention to the driving conditions around them. The fact is that as a professional driver, you have to stay in tune with your surroundings. Weather conditions, road and traffic conditions change from moment to moment, and if you're not paying attention, you could find yourself in a serious crash. Sometimes it's pretty obvious that we need to slow down, like in a blinding snowstorm. But there are many other times when it's not so clear that conditions are dangerous. Most of us have driven in the rain when the temperature has been dropping. During the day, everything was okay. It was just wet and sloppy. But at what time do the wet roads turn to ice? The pavement still looks wet and shiny, but is it cold enough to freeze? If you encountered this type of driving situation, would you slow down? If you would, how slow would you have to go to feel safe? When drivers find themselves in these conditions, they sometimes don't realize the danger, or maybe they think the laws of physics don't apply to them and their trucks. When they slide off the road or into another vehicle, they blame the roads and the ice. But it's not the roads or the ice. Sometimes it's just too bad to drive, and we have to find a safe place to get off the road and wait for conditions to improve. We've said that most of us would know enough to get off the road if we were in a blizzard. But have you ever been on the interstate in the middle of summer when a thunderstorm hit? It sometimes rains so hard you can't see 100 yards in front of your truck. When that's happened, have you ever seen cars and trucks jump over into the left lane and just keep flying along like nothing was happening? It can get pretty scary because you know somebody slowed way down and others haven't. When those two meet, it's going to be a bad wreck. In this kind of situation, all you can do is move to the right lane, slow down, and turn on your lights and four-way flashers. If it's bad enough, you may have to find a safe place and get off the road altogether. In the rain, it's not just a matter of visibility. Only a very small amount of water on the road can cause your truck to hydroplane. This is when the tires on your truck ride up on a thin layer of water and lose traction with the road. The result is just like driving on ice. You have no control of your truck. You can't stop and you can't steer. All you can do is come off the throttle and hold everything straight until you slow down enough to regain contact with the road. Hitting the brakes or steering sharply will likely cause a skid and a total loss of control. The best way to keep control of your truck is to slow down in the rain at any time there are wet conditions. Most of us have driven in fog and at other times when visibility has been restricted. Here again, it's important that we slow down and don't overdrive the space we can clearly see in front of us. Some of the worst chain reaction crashes have occurred in the fog. especially when the fog has been patchy and dense. Be particularly careful in conditions like this. We talked about the hazards the weather can bring and the fact that we need to slow down when driving at these times. But there are other situations when speed works against us and against our ability to drive safely. For instance, as professional truck drivers, we often get into towns and other areas where we aren't familiar with the roads and may not know exactly where we're going. As we try to find our way in unfamiliar surroundings, if we don't slow down, we may have a tendency to make sudden lane changes or to turn without giving others enough warning. Sometimes we can be on a stretch of road for the first time and not realize that the next curve is a little sharper than the others. We may not realize that the exit ramp has a sharper curve or a quicker stop. We have to pay attention to speed advisories and other warning signs, but slowing down is the best idea when we're in places we don't know well. Again, a lack of familiarity can put us in a serious collision. Anytime we're in a strange area, we need to slow down and be extra cautious. Finally, anytime we find ourselves in heavy traffic, we need to slow down. Other drivers will still try to speed along as if they had the road to themselves, but they may be the ones who cause an accident down the road. As professionals, we need to give ourselves time and space to react to changing conditions and to the mistakes of other drivers. We can only do this if we slow down and make room for the other guy. So, in summary, the old saying is true: speed really does kill. When you combine excessive speed with the size and weight of an 18-wheeler, disaster is always waiting.